Hi, everybody. I'm Gloria Moraga. Well, it's official. Confirmed today. We are in a constitutional crisis because the madman who lives in the White House, and that's our White House, that's not his White House, it's owned by the people, has just pushed this to the limit. So it's Monday, April 14th, 2025, day before tax day. Here's a question. Why are we paying taxes? To support this corrupt regime? Yes, it's a regime that is no longer following the rule of law. So today, this is something we've all been expecting, we've all been waiting for Trump to ignore what the courts are telling him. He said on the plane, I will follow what the Supreme Court says, but now clearly he's not doing it. So yeah, this is the constitutional crisis, and this is serious. It's unbelievable what this man is doing. Today, listening to the wannabe dictator oohing and awing and fawning over the dictator from El Salvador, and he happily calls himself a dictator. Here's a soundbite.
But I want to thank you for the great job you're doing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here in the Oval Office with the President and leader of the free world. We're very happy, and we're very eager to help.
Yeah, he is eager to help for a price. Now, Trump has used $6 million of our tax dollars to illegally transport and deport and disappear alleged illegal immigrants. And I say alleged because they didn't have a trial. We don't know who they are. I've said that all along. We know at least two of the men who have lawyers are innocent. They were here legally, and they're not members of a gang. And for all we know, it could be all of them.
Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CB.
Thank you, President Trump. Do you plan to ask President Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President.
See what the convicted felon did there? He didn't answer the question. Of course, he insulted CNN anchor, reporter. But he pushed the question over to Pam Bondi, and then he pushed it over to the pencil-headed, nasty, racist Steve Miller. And then he pushed the question over to little Marco. So little Pammy, little Stevie, little Marco all answered that they're going to stand up to the Supreme Court and break the law. But Trump didn't do it. And he doesn't know who this guy is. He could care less. He always pushes it over to somebody else when he doesn't know what they're talking about. Also, to protect himself. I mean, did you notice that? And they all lied. They all lied. They said the opposite of what the Supreme Court ruled.
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked President
Presidente
Bukele. Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to be suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
It's always
how can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
All of those Trump losers, all of the ones in his circle, it's just disgusting sitting around him and validating every lie that he tells. They lied about what the Supreme Court said, and let me just read it. The order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to assure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. And then this is the last sentence of that Supreme Court ruling. In the proceedings on remand, the district court should continue to ensure that the government lives up to its obligations to follow the law. They are not following the law. And today in the Oval Office, in our Oval Office, that they have just trampled and soiled, they made it clear that they were not going to follow the law. The convicted felon, Trump, and his dog killer and his little band of suck-ups did something that is illegal. And now they are planning to ignore the Supreme Court ruling. And you know, the dictator, Trump, has to insult CNN anchor Caitlin Collins when she asks a question. Why? Because he's a petty little man. He's a petty little person who doesn't know anything about the rule of law or our Constitution that he swore to uphold, not putting his hand on the Bible. So the two dictators are in agreement. Trump, as he's mentioned before, and just, you know, people say, I mean, he's a psychopath, but he said it before, he wants to deport Americans and put them in that concentration camp in El Salvador.
We have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that, Steve, okay?
And just a follow-up question, a clarification. You mentioned that you're open to deporting individuals that aren't foreign aliens but are criminals to El Salvador. Does that include potentially U.S. citizens, fully naturalized immigrants?
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, and if they rape 87-year-old women in Coney Island, Brooklyn, yeah, that includes them. What, do you think there's a special category of person? They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too. And I'm all for it. Because we can do things with the president for less money and have great security. And we have a huge prison population. We have a huge number of prisons, and then we have the private prisons, and some are operated well, I guess, and some aren't. But he does a great job with that. We have others that we're negotiating with too. But no, if it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem. Now, we're studying the laws right now. Pam is studying. If we can do that, that's good. And I'm talking about violent people. I'm talking about really bad people. Really bad people. Every bit as bad as the ones coming in.
So who decides? Who decides who are the people who commit really horrible crimes? Donald Trump? Pam Bondi? I mean, all those ridiculous, petty, stupid people surrounding him there in the White House. Little Marco, who has said that he wants to root out students who are making a ruckus. Yeah, if they're making a ruckus, he wants to get rid of them. He's going to decide who should go to the concentration camp in El Salvador, and God knows how much money they're going to spend to ship us there. They're lying. They're all lying, and they're all breaking the law. And we are in the constitutional crisis. We'll see. They had a hearing late Monday, and the Trump administration, the Justice Department, was 2 hours late to that hearing with the judge. And so we'll see. It's probably going to go back to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court is going to have to get tough. And who knows if they can do it, because they're all, the majority of them, the right-wingers, the Clarence Thomas and the other dudes, are all being paid off by rich people. surrounded by ridiculous, dangerous, lying people who are all breaking the law. And all I can say is we've got to hang on here, people. Hang on so we can get rid of them, so we can win the election in 2 years, take control of the House and the Senate, and impeach this dude. And I blame the Republicans in Congress also for not taking back their power. They could have stopped this. They could have stepped in. The Congress controls the purse. It was set up like that so they could pull the funds from Trump, so he couldn't do this. The Congress controls the purse, and they're not doing their job. They're not doing it at all. And the only thing that's going to stop them is if we speak up and we vote and we raise a ruckus. We raise a ruckus and see if little Marco comes after us. I'm Gloria Moraga, Political Woman. Please subscribe.